Well, hello there.
Hey there, what do you got on your shirt? I can't tell. It looks like somebody's head.
Come on, come on. John Candy. This is iconic.
It
Iconic.
is. It doesn't look
Oh,
like John Candy.
Marcus, do you know who this is? You know this reference?
I don't I don't know
You're
the
blocking
reference.
one of the words. Like it's Wally World.
Yours
Wally
is
World.
yours says
Okay,
Wally
now
World and mine says affluential.
hmm, I like that. What's affluential? What does that stand for?
It's a
Wealthy, powerful, and socially. What does it say? And stand up. I can't see.
There we go. There we go.
And
There we go.
socially influential impactor who inspires the actions of others. I love that. Okay.
Cool.
All
See,
right.
his
Well, I have nothing on my shirt.
mine is the reference to National Lampoon's movie Vacation, where they go all the way across to go to Wally World. That's their big vacation, and they get there, and John Candy's there, and he's like, "Sorry, folks, park's closed." That's
Mm,
that's the shirt.
got you. And mine is from me studying a lot of language and being in the gym and someone coming up to me like every time I was in the gym saying, "Oh, did you go to USC? Did you go to Harvard? Did you go to this?" Or some random T-shirt that someone gave me, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna make my own T-shirts that have words that have meaning, and so affluential comes from that.
That's awesome.
Nice.
I love that.
This man makes t-shirts, PJ. We have struggled to make t-shirts. We
No,
we have made pledges of t-shirts and
I
we've been
know.
requested
That
to
is, that
sell
is,
t-shirts and
Oh,
it
it's so
hasn't worked
easy now
out.
with AI.
That
oh,
is
oh.
true. Well,
I
that's
want
a
to talk
segue.
about
There's a man
that's
knowing how to plug where he goes. Although his AI is very different than selling shirts. But you know what? Let's not belabor it. Let's introduce our amazing guest
uh,
and get going.
all right. Well, today, folks, we have the wonderful Mr. Marcus Bellringer Bell, who is a true trailblazer, blending his extraordinary achievements in music with pioneering advancements in artificial intelligence, just as we were talking about AI. As an award-winning music producer, Marcus has amassed over 1 billion music streams, collaborating with global icons like Nicki Minaj and Snoop Dogg through his company, Bellringer Productions. His work spans platforms from HBO to McDonald's, leaving an indelible mark on the global music scene. In 2023, Marcus faced a personal and professional challenge when he lost his voice during a recording session. Refusing to let the setback hold him back, he turned to AI to clone his voice and to complete his project. This pivotal moment sparked a new passion for harnessing AI's potential to revolutionize creative expression, leading to the creation of his groundbreaking photorealistic AI musical artist, Ravyn Lyte. Beyond musical production, Marcus is an author and an educator. His Amazon #1 bestseller, Bellringer Branding Bible, empowers artists with actionable strategies to build wealth and amplify their impact. From his roots in Norfolk, Virginia, to the global stage, Marcus continues to inspire innovation and reimagine the possibilities of technology and creativity. Marcus, we are honored to have you on the Braving Business Podcast.
I'm so happy to be here with you all.
Thank you, Marcus. And wow, what an introduction. Our team does an incredible job coming up with uh, a summary of people's lives and careers. And yours has been incredible. But what it doesn't say is that you actually started as a child prodigy. You composed music at 8. You were running your own record label at 12. I'm
Yes.
chuckling because it's just it's amusing. Looking back, talk to us about what sparked that kind of early ambition and how that evolved into the work and the man that you are today.
Well, my parents discovered that I was a child music prodigy when I was 2 years old. I was in front of the piano, my grandmother's piano that they had brought to the house. And usually 2-year-olds will bang on a piano. In my case, apparently, I walked over to the piano and intentionally pressed down the keys one by one. And they said, "Oh, well, let's try them in piano lessons." And that is where that started. And I basically got trained in classical music and then shifted into jazz music. And then I started songwriting in pop music. At the same time, I was doing a lot of performing. So I was acting, singing, dancing, and had been in some TV shows and some movies and things like that. But with the songwriting, I realized that I had this opportunity to reach people, to impact people, to have the things that I cared about or that I thought were important be communicated to others. And I had some mentors at the time that became my first investors in my record label when I was 12. And the Virginia Opera had put me on tour to do a one-man show where I was doing all the things. So I was playing the saxophone and tap dancing and performing some original material and acting and so forth. And because I was in front of hundreds of thousands of kids on this tour, I said, you know what? I need to be putting out music because this is going to be an audience. Maybe I could sell some music with this audience. And that started my entrepreneurial journey.
That's brilliant. What was the name of your first music label?
It was so original. Ring a Bell Records.
Hey, you know what? What's the saying? Shake what your mama gave you. I mean, you had Bell.
You
Might as
know,
well go with it,
you
right?
know, might as well ring them.
That's right. That's right.
That's incredible. So,
And actually, it was foreshadowing what my producer name would end up being,
Right.
right? Which is
Bellringer.
yeah.
Yeah.
very cool. Very cool. So you start out in Norfolk, Virginia, and then you go to the global stage. Obviously, your journey is remarkable. What is one lesson from your upbringing that still influences the way that you approach your music today?
The first thing that comes to mind is mentorship. And there are many ways to have mentorship and to gain specialized knowledge from others that are experts in other areas. So I mentioned my mentors when I was 12 being my first investors, and I didn't know what I was doing. My father wasn't around when I was that age, and basically my mother was smart. She started reaching out to people that she would read about in a newspaper or see on television and ask them to mentor me. And so there was like the head of the Family Channel. There was executives and African American men, in different positions of influence. And that taught me that, wow, you could have mentorship in many different ways, right? So they were kind of my early business mentors, even though they didn't know the music industry. And then later I saw, oh, well, it makes sense to have a mentor that specializes in wealth building, or it makes sense to have a mentor that specializes in marketing or sales, or so, and that those mentors can show up with direct personal relationships, but it can also show up in the form of books or content that you find on YouTube or podcast, right? And so there are many different ways to be mentored. And so right now, uh, earlier today, I was in a meeting with someone that is very well known in the art world. And in that meeting, we talked about the importance of art in capturing culture. And I saw new things about the role of not pop music, but fine art and the capacity for music to impact the thinking of people of influence that buy fine art. And so he doesn't realize it, but he's now my fine art mentor, right? Because that's kind of how I've learned and been able to develop specialized knowledge in different areas and become a polymath as a result.
It's fascinating, and I also at this point in my life am invested in mentorship. I've always cared about that. I was generally a young CEO, and I was too young to really mentor people. But at this stage of my career, I'm mentoring actively both college students and people in high school. And it is incredible. You don't have to be, you don't have to be Marcus Bell to have an impact on people's lives. I mean, it's great that you do that, Marcus. But I believe that just about anyone that has a lived experience and is willing to take some time to get to know, particularly children who are in a position where they perhaps are missing some guidance in their lives that perhaps your children, our children have. I think it's such a beautiful thing. You have worked with legends, and many of them, again, over 1 billion music streams as a music producer, 1 billion with a B. Nicki Minaj, Snoop Dogg. I'd love it if you could share a moment with either one of them that shaped your approach, or in general, tell us, how does one get to, from the beginnings you got to a stage where you are working with, names that just about every human being on the planet knows?
There are a few different things that come to mind with that, but I want to circle back real quick to the mentorship thing, because one of the things that I realized that I needed along my journey was mentorship around business and finances and building wealth, and how do you make an impact with as you gain more influence in the world. And so as I started to acquire that specialized knowledge, I started to create programs to support others as well. So I'm a strong believer in being able to pass specialized knowledge on to others to ease their journey, to provide guidance and clarity and direction. And so as it relates to working with brands and seeing something go from an idea to becoming known, right, by millions of people or billions of people, I see it as a creative process.
Hmm.
I see business as a creative process, just like music is a creative process, just as gaining notoriety and visibility in a marketplace as a creative process. That process being clear on what it is that you're doing, your aim, uh, being able to understand who the audience is for that thing, being able to capture the value in a way that can spread, right? Finding distribution outlets for that value to be communicated, whether that's a book, whether that's a song, whether that's a t-shirt, or whether that's whatever, a product, service, offer, message, movement, and then gaining consensus from enough people that say, this is valuable, that they would be able to exchange money or attention for that. And so that process is one that I support people with, but it's one that I observe across industries. And that's one of the things that I picked up along the way as I've looked at, well, what does it mean to have impact? What does it mean to build something that can sustain over time?
So let me ask a follow-up on that, and to tie that back to my question. So again, given your beginning, it's amazing what you've just shared is so valuable, and I'm going to go back and re-listen to it because I think it's a darn good point.
Yeah,
The
excellent.
creativity in art is just another form of creativity, and it exists in business. It absolutely does. And just about every business is a work of art of some kind. So that's a really interesting, and I'd never thought of it in those terms. So I love that, and I want to reflect on that. Tie that back to me too. Okay, you're meeting artists at some point in their careers. I don't know where Nicki Minaj was or Snoop Dogg when you met them. Were they already well known? Were they not? What is it that you notice about an artist, or much as you would a business, right? That tells you, you know what? There's something here. There's something potentially very valuable behind that person or business.
It started from being an artist.
Hmm.
So we can recognize in others what's inside of us. So the thing that we appreciate and love about someone, name anybody, and what you love about them, you can only see that in them because that lives inside of you, right? And so I see artists that I work with and uh, business owners or CEOs that I may collaborate with or people that go, they are extensions of me. And so as extensions of me, then there's not a separation of possibility, right? So I'm relating to them as, well, wow, I want to make sure that this song is in the right key so that when you have to perform this every single night, when this thing is a hit, that it doesn't harm your voice,
Mm.
right? Because I wouldn't, because me as a performer, if I know I'm going to have to hit that note, maybe I don't want to put things in jeopardy in that way, right? And so, uh, coming from an early background of performing has really helped me to understand and be able to communicate and allow for uh, expression to happen. So, with some of the bigger artists that I've worked with, or that have used my music, or that I've written for, or it's been varied learnings. For
Mm.
example, I learned how to produce hip hop from Jam Master Jay from Run DMC.
Oh,
I was in Boston. I had graduated Berklee College of Music, and Jay called me one day and said, "Is this Marcus Bell, the Bellringer?" And I was like, "Yeah, who's this?" He's like, "It's Jam Master Jay." Hey man,
oh,
I'm a fan of your music. I've been listening to this song that you did on it was an unknown artist. I hadn't had any hits or anything like that, right? So I was like, is somebody pranking me? He's like, he's like, man, that song that you did, I listened to that on repeat. I got your information from my cousin who had played it for me. I would love for you to come to New York and work with me. I just got to deal with Virgin Records and I want to put you on everything, right?
wow.
And so I'm in the studio with him and I'm watching his process, right? I'm watching how he was taking at that time a group of rappers from New York and made them sound like they were from Atlanta.
All right.
And the ghostwriting process behind that and all of that. And then I also learned a major lesson because the night that he was murdered was happened to be a night that I wasn't in the studio with him.
That's both a bane and a blessing, right? Like that's heavy.
Yeah, so I had this feeling that I should go to Virginia that day, and and I didn't understand why until I got the call. Hey, Bellringer, where are you at right now? I'm like, I'm in Virginia. Jay just got shot, right? So one of the things that I learned from that was that no matter how impactful someone is, um, no matter how sweet they are, it was my first time really experiencing grief, right? Because he was just the sweetest guy, and he was so generous in bringing me kind of into a part of his world. But what I recognized in that was that sometimes there's parts of people's worlds that aren't revealed until later. And that could be a good thing or that could be a tragic thing.
Yeah. There, there's so many. Okay, sorry. You've shared so much that I'm trying to soak it all in. The first of all, there is no grief without love. So for you to be able to share that with Jay is amazing, and to have that access to such an amazing artist and performer at that time is fantastic. And what a testament to you that he sought you out. And you were not at the same popularity level clearly as he was at that time, but for him to recognize your brilliance and what you can bring to the table and how he said, I want to flow with this guy, I think is just a testament to yourself and fantastic. And it's also amazing how fate kind of intersects our lives. Fate for you to not only meet with him and to share those experiences with him and grow with him in musicality and everything, but also um, to be spared, uh, not only for your own personal safety, but also being spared watching, being a part of that entire scene when it happened is also a blessing in disguise. Um,
So I want to say that it absolutely was a golden moment in my life because in that moment there was a lot of deaths happening in the hip hop world, and I decided, okay, I'm cool on hip hop for now. And so I went to Nashville and started working in country music. I started traveling the world, doing projects in India and Japan. So I had like a K-pop hit. I had a #2 in India. I ended up going to Turkey. So I said, you know what? The world is big. And so I want to expand my horizons until it's time to come back to hip hop. And so I had uh, that kind of epiphany that, wow, this could be something that um, could stop me, or it could propel me in in new ways.
So we're going to talk about, propelling your new ways in a second. I want to call out for those of you that listen to our podcast regularly, a theme that you've heard so many times, a setback, some significant challenges, and as opposed to tucking tail and, calling it a day or moving in a different direction, Marcus pivoted, but inside, right? He didn't give up. He pivoted. He saw an opportunity to redirect. And I think that that's a sign of strength. And as we've seen repeatedly from guests on the show, it's that beyond all other things that separates successful people from less successful people. It's resilience. It's the opportunity to show oneself and the world that even when facing significant challenges, you can persevere. That moment where you choose to persevere is the first step on your path to success. It may not happen overnight. Success is not an overnight thing, but being persistent and choosing to stick it out is what every successful person does. That without that, there is no success. So I just want to call that out. Let's talk about, brand new horizons if we can. Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to respond to what that comment
Yeah.
that you just shared. One of the key elements to being able to persist and be unstoppable inside of any endeavor is a connection to something bigger, a connection to what my friend Dan Burris, who's a futurist and public speaker, uh, likes to call the bigger big.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're connected to a bigger big, then how that gets expressed may take different forms. So that desire that I had when I was a kid to create music that would actually help people, that would uh, give people access to happiness, give people access to a change of mood or a change of state, right? That uh, the humanist in me, right? Hip hop was just one expression. Country, rock, EDM, those are just expressions. Music was just an expression. Courses is an expression now. AI and how I'm using AI as a tool is another expression of a bigger big, which is to raise consciousness, to uplift humanity. And so as I connect myself with that bigger big, then how that rolls out and gets expressed can go through ups and downs. It could, uh, you know, take many different shapes and forms.
Oh,
I love that, and I think it's yeah. I mean, it's insightful, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. Let's talk about some of the very significant career-defining moments that you've had, including you lost your voice. You're in a recording session, you lose your voice. I cannot imagine what that must have been like. You know, it's think about if you're a left-handed pitcher and suddenly you break your left arm. What went through your mind in that moment, and how did you go from there to AI?
Okay, let me give a couple of bit of pieces of context. So I've been using AI for about 15 years now in different ways, right? And when the first AI music tools came out, one was a mastering software called Lander, and that came out about 11 years ago. That the first day that it came out, I was using it. All right. Uh, the studio session that I was in when I lost my voice was part of me doing 100 songs in 100 days. So I had taken on doing challenges over the years. And so I would create an aim and then get after that aim within 100-day time frame.
is this like a personal one? Like I'm just challenging myself, or do you have a companion that you're saying, all right, I'm going to do it in 100 days. You're going to try, you know what I mean? Like, are you doing it with someone or just by yourself?
Great question. I used to do it by myself. And then I introduced it to a group that uh, my kind of flagship course is called Wealth and Impact Bootcamp. And during COVID, I had challenged them to do a 100-day challenge and select something of importance and get after it for 100 days, put in a consequence, pair up with someone for accountability. And I just kind of gave this structure. And at the end of 100 days, I came back and I said, how did it go? And the testimonials that people gave me were incredible. Someone had stopped playing music and they started doing music again. Someone had quit their job and started a new career. Over and over, there was person after person saying, hey, this really impacted me greatly. And then someone came on and said, um, can I go to the press about this? Like it's been that significant.
Hmm.
And I said, you know what? Hold on a second. Let me think about this because this was a private group. And I like, okay, do I want to go to the press? Do I want to be known as a 100 days guy? Right, in the world? And then I woke up one morning and I said, you know what? They're right. This needs to be out in public. And so we launched a public 100 Days Impact Challenge that people can sign up for. It's still live, so people can go and do it. And basically, people that sign up for the 100 Days Impact Challenge basically get a video from me every single day, a text message every single day. There's a community of support and all of that. And so I had never done a music 100 Days Challenge before. And I've been threatening to do that. And I decided to do that at the beginning of 2023. And midstream, I lost my voice.
Oof.
And I said, okay. And because I was public about my challenge, it wasn't like, okay, well, I'll just pause the challenge and until I get my voice back or anything like that. I believe again in being unstoppable and being persistent and finding a way to make it happen, right? To pivot. And so I said, well, there are all these AI tools that are out. Let me start doing some deep dive into the audio tools. And I found a way to clone my speaking voice. And I ended up doing 10 songs in that 100 Days Challenge using my AI clone voice, doing meditations. And actually, those meditations have been one of the most popular set of songs in those 100 songs on YouTube right now. And that is what had me say, wait a minute, there is an AI revolution that's happening right now. And this is not just a force multiplier for productivity, but what else can happen with this? So, as opposed to having fear about it, I got really curious about what's possible. And that drove me deep into the AI rabbit hole where I was eating, drinking, sleeping, became a prompt engineer, became an AI technologist, took about 40 courses on it, created books and songs and characters and etc.
Wow. Yeah. So cool. And it's so interesting that you delved into AI with such robustness, especially given that a lot of people in the creative space think that it can really hurt them rather than help them. So I have two questions. One, when you said that you were using AI to help, you had recorded your voice, you had 10 songs that were done, and this is where I'm assuming this is kind of how you launched Ravyn. Um, when you say that AI emulated your voice, did you have like a bunch of recordings of your voice and then AI would manipulate it, or did you use AI to create brand new your voice for her? Does that make sense?
Okay, great. I had a recording of me doing affirmations from years before because in order to train a Marcus Bellringer model, voice model, I needed to have enough of my voice speaking or singing to actually train a model. And so I had this recording of affirmations that I had done that was about 35 minutes long, and which ended up, ironically, being exactly the amount to train a good voice model of my voice. And so I chopped up that 35 minutes into pieces and used that to train a Marcus Bellringer voice model. And then I was using a bunch of different platforms to accomplish this. And then I ended up with 11 Labs was the AI platform that I ended up using to do the majority of it. And so I trained a model, and then basically I was able to type in the affirmations and the meditations that I had created, and it outputted my speaking voice. I took
Hmm.
that speaking voice and then I created music around it. And so
Oh,
that was my process.
that's very cool. So, all right, so let's talk about AI, specifically AI within your realm, the music industry.
Mhm.
As a pioneer using AI to revolutionize music,
Mhm.
and I'll tell you why I'm interested in this, not only just in general, but also my wife is a creative. She's an author. AI is a big fear in the author realm, right? Like it's words on paper and AI can do that. Where do you see the intersection of human creativity and artificial intelligence heading in the next 5 years?
I'm living it now. And Ravyn Lyte is one example of that being lived out. And basically, I had this insight as I went into all of these different spaces of the large language models and the audio models and the video models and the image generation models. So I had been creating NFTs with Midjourney the day Midjourney came out. I had a friend of mine that was an engineer involved in that project, and she had reached out to me and said, Marcus, you got to check out this image creation tool that's coming out. And so I was early on that. And as a futurist, not just in music, but of just kind of like a futurist, I'm always looking at what the future is. And the best way to know the future is to be a part of the creation of it, right? And so I looked at Ravyn Lyte as a possibility of creating a recording artist that stood for something greater than just the music. So Ravyn Lyte is an advocate for mental health and well-being. Um, I teamed up with some neuroscientists and learned how to integrate inside of Ravyn Lyte's music sounds and tones and frequencies that actually help people. The project has evolved since July in so many important ways. For example, there's a voice model of Ravyn Lyte. So a friend of mine that actually was a participant in one of my programs, she is the voice of Ravyn Lyte. And so she loaned her voice to be the voice of Ravyn Lyte. And so when Ravyn Lyte talks, it's really the sound of her voice, right? And we've been able to have Ravyn Lyte accept telephone calls so you can call her and have a conversation. Uh, and when the hurricanes happened last year, basically someone had started spreading her telephone number and people were calling Ravyn Lyte to just help them through a difficult time. And so here's where the human plus technology comes together for good, right? Inside of the Ravyn Lyte project, we've partnered up with a nonprofit that supports musicians and kids in underserved communities and learning how to play instruments. And so profits from Ravyn Lyte's project actually go and support that nonprofit called the White Heart Arts Academy.
Oh, that's cool.
Let's go backwards. It's I think we glossed over a really important part, which is that you lost your voice, and that led you to some discovery. So it's a great moment and a great teaching moment, because here you are, something that is critical to your success is taken away from you. And again, you don't tuck tail, you persevere and you find an alternative. Okay. And that eventually leads you to Ravyn Lyte, which I have so many questions about. But before we go there, what went through your head? I mean, you lost your voice. Did you immediately in your mind go, okay, it's just, I need to find another solution? Or did you freak out?
Hmm. It was very um, challenging.
Sure.
I love that I stumped you. That's awesome. Go on.
Well, I wanted to use the right
Yeah.
word,
Right.
right? That captures it,
Yeah.
because it's not just the singing and performing, but I use my voice to support so many people,
Mm.
Mhm.
right? I have a 9-year-old daughter, so losing the voice, it's it's not just, oh, I can't sing songs for my 100 days challenge, right? It's now it's difficult for me to communicate to my 9-year-old. Now it's difficult for me to lead a webinar, right, with people that have paid money to learn from me and be able to support them powerfully, right? And etc. um, and so in that moment of challenge, there for me, once I make a commitment towards something, I'm all in on it. And again, one of my words is unstoppable, right? And I looked at my not being able to speak and I said, all right, this is not going to stop me. I am going to find new ways to communicate. This is an opportunity. And inside of this opportunity, I am going to innovate. So, what did that look like? Not only did I train a voice model, I created an avatar of myself that actually presented on one of the webinars. And it said, you may notice that Marcus has lost his voice. I am going to be speaking for Marcus on this webinar. And I created a series of video that I triggered on that webinar, which may have been in that moment another innovation, which actually I never talked about until this moment. So thank you for circling back and like digging more into it, because that's exactly what happened.
Well, what you're hearing, and I'm talking to our audience, is you are hearing what refusing to quit looks like. A door closes, you look for another, you look for a window, you figure it out.
But
That's
also
why he's successful, ladies and gentlemen. He's brilliant too, but he's successful because he refuses to quit.
but and to kind of add on to that, Tal, you're 100% right. He also recognized the tools that he had at his disposal
That's
and
right.
maximized what he had at his fingertips, right? And that also takes a lot of creativity to be able to say, oh, personally, if I couldn't communicate with my daughter or any of my children, I would have been pretty devastated. So I think it's huge kudos to you to be able to sit there and assess where you're at, because we talk a lot about the pivot on this show, and that pivot can come in many different ways. Normally it's external. Your pivot's internal, in that you physically had a hurdle that you couldn't get over, which is terrible. And just a side note, what was it? Clearly it's not laryngitis. This is something like a major thing that you had suffered. What is it?
It was bronchitis.
Oh, but just super bad then. Super terrible.
Yeah. It was bad.
Okay. All right. Well, but still, it forced you down this path where you had to keep inertia and momentum going. And you already dabbling in AI were able to take this and say, oh, you know what? Let me push this in this slot and see how that goes. That's innovation by force, which I think shows just a tremendous amount of resilience. So that's very cool. That's very
It shows this to me. In a moment of crisis, he did an inventory of what he had and what he could tap into. And that's great. In a moment of crisis, don't panic. In a moment of crisis, don't bellyache. Find answers. They're there. Find answers. That's what he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to speak into that for a second, because there are many ways to look at assets. We have tangible assets, we have intangible assets, we have human assets, right? And so in moments of breakdown, is there technology that can solve this? If I don't know, is there someone that I can reach out to that does know? Is there some online community that I can tap into, right? It's when I've discovered for myself, when I isolate myself is when, wait a minute, I have to figure this out all on my own, right? That stifles opportunity. And so it's when moving outside of self into possibilities, whether that's through tech or whether that's through community, or whether that's where, to me, that's where the juice is. The juice is right there when you're able to go from, oh, I have to solve this on my own, to actually, let me open myself up for other people to be able to contribute, for other people to have the opportunity to reciprocate, right? And exchange in other ways, not just money, right? It could be just in energy. It could just be in, I'm rooting for you. sometimes I'm rooting for you is all that is needed for someone to be able to get over a hurdle.
Support.
Support.
Very cool. So so you're now currently promoting Ravyn Lyte, who, in case our audience has missed it, is a virtual person, an AIO artist, as a worldwide artist. What is your ultimate vision for her, right? You've literally created her from scratch. How do you see her redefining what it means to be a musical artist?
The first thing I would say is that it's a creation that started with me, but it's become the creation of a team of women and technologists that really see the opportunity that I saw. And that is the creation of, imagine, we have all these characters, right? You have like Mickey Mouse, you have Barbie, there are the way we personify objects, even, right? So we as human beings, we can really impose ourselves on objects, on things, and bring meaning to it, right? Well, in this case with Ravyn Lyte, where I'm aiming is to create a brand that sustains over time, that creates value, uh, that is a music artist that I don't mind playing for my daughter, right? I don't mind young people. In fact, I want young people to enjoy Ravyn Lyte's music. Right now, I can't play everything uh, that I hear on Spotify um, in my car with my daughter, right? Because there's so much explicit, content and so forth that I have to put the filters on, and it filters, so it limits that, right? So one of my missions is to uh, to bring cooler music to young people, and so Ravyn Lyte kind of does that in a particular kind of way. But also, when you go to Ravyn Lyte's website, you can download a book, right? A book that guides you with affirmations and things like that, right? So what I see as the future for artists like Ravyn Lyte and others that are in development right now is to create an example of what's possible for even human artists, right? To show new ways to engage with audiences. So through language, for example, um, I not just clone my voice for singing in English, but I've done songs in Spanish. So, so there's a set of songs that are gonna come out with me singing in Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish. So for human artists, right, it creates the opportunity to reach larger audiences through AI and its application in language. Same thing with businesses, right? So I look at businesses and that opportunity for businesses to create their materials in different languages, right? So that it can expand uh, the possibilities for impact and income.
So let me ask you this, and that's a data point that I glossed over because we talked about some of your accomplishments. We talked about many of them, but okay, a man who at the age of 2 was at the piano writing his first songs at 8, started his own record label at 12. He's a Berklee College of Music graduate. If you don't know it, that's the best music school in the world. And guess how many instruments he plays, PJ?
He mentioned
Yes,
saxophone and piano. 8.
12.
Oh,
He plays 12 instruments. So I have a question for you, Marcus. Is there anything you've ever set your mind to that you did not manage to master or at least become very, very capable at? He's thinking. In case you're not, if you're not watching the YouTube, he's in deep thought.
deep in thought.
having empathy and compassion be the thing that ends war.
Okay, I hear you. Well, you know what? That's inspiring. You know what? I think that there are certain things that, my mother used to say that we plan and God laughs, right? So there are certain things that, the Almighty, if you believe in him, as I do, you have the opportunity to master. And then there are other things that are just beyond our human capabilities. So I challenge you, because you've more or less accomplished everything you've set your mind to please figure out how to end, I don't know, global warming or
I'm
something like that.
I'm at
I have
work
a
on it.
feeling you might be able to figure that out, right?
I'm at work on it.
Sounds good. Our
I'm-
guest today was Marcus Bellringer Bell. He's incredible, an award-winning music producer, over 1 billion music streams. You've heard all the accomplishments and all the things this man can do, and the humility and the kindness just resonate from his face. If you're not watching this on YouTube, go check that out. You need to see this man. Marcus Bell, it's been such a privilege to have you on the show. We are so, so grateful that you took time to be with us today. Continued success. Continue doing amazing things. I'm going to download Ravyn Lyte, just to see what you do with her. But thank you. Thank you so much for being our guest today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's awesome.
yeah, thank you so much for having me and instigating some new conversations, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That
Love that.
have value. Yeah, so I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Marcus.